Hey, what's up guys, it's Aladin. Now before I start my top 10 WTF moments and review on this episode, if you haven't seen it yet, I suggest clicking away for now because there will be a shit ton of spoilers and I really do not want to spoil it for you unless you want that. If so, then stay because in this video, I'll be giving you guys my honest review as well as my top 10 WTF moments on the latest episode of Game of Thrones. And before I get started, if you guys are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. It definitely helps out the channel grow and lets others like you stay tuned with the latest shows and movies. And also, don't forget to hit that notification bell so you guys can get notified right away when I drop my next video. But I truly don't know where to start right now just because this episode was filled with such an adrenaline rush where it literally got me shaking as well as giving me anxiety. This episode had so much going on that I literally had no time to process everything that was happening. But I'll first give you guys my top 10 WTF moments in the episode and then later give you guys my full review at the end and let you guys know what I liked and disliked about the episode. So let's begin. Number 10. Melisandre came back to Winterfell one last time. Now we knew Melisandre was going to come back to Westeros as she stated last season in episode 3. She told Varys that she was going to return to the strange land where she knew that she was going to die. Now I knew that she was going to come back, but I had no idea that it was going to be right in the beginning of this episode where she would just casually ride on a horse from out of nowhere heading towards Winterfell. I will say I was glad to see her back just because, believe it or not, she really is useful when it comes to times of need. Yeah, she had some fucked up moments in the past and did some weird shit to people, but then again, she has done a lot of good as well. Not saying that she's a complete good person and that we should just trust her, but we should accept the fact that she is willing to help out when needed and that she actually wants to make a difference. Melisandre arrived at Winterfell like a boss. She came all by herself and was prepared to die knowing damn well that Sir Davos would see her and get mad. She ends up talking to Sir Jorah first and then asks him if he speaks the tongue of the Dothraki. Sir Jorah nods his head as in yes, and then Melisandre tells him to tell the Dothraki to raise their swords. Melisandre ends up going to one of the Dothraki soldiers and starts holding onto his sword, where then she says some magic words and then out of nowhere all the swords of the Dothraki start lighting up in flames. You can't tell me that wasn't badass. All the Dothraki start cheering in excitement, but what they don't know next will be the doom of them, which I'll get into in a minute. Melisandre ends up riding away and heads towards the front doors of Winterfell, where then Sir Davos is looking at her all fiercely to the point where he just wants to strangle her right away. Sir Davos wanted to kill Melisandre back in season 6 episode 10 when he found out that she killed Stannis' daughter Shireen. It was at that point Sir Davos hated her and would never forgive her. Melisandre even told Sir Davos that there's no need to execute her right now just because she will be dead by dawn. But the way that she does go out in the end is just so poetic, just because she ends up taking her necklace off, which if you didn't know, that necklace had like some magic spell on it which would make her look young than what she really was. Overall, in my opinion, I do think Melisandre definitely lived up to her promise, and I do consider her one of the MVPs of this episode. Number 9. The Dothraki all get obliterated in a matter of seconds. Now, as I mentioned before, the Dothraki thought just because they had their swords lit on fire that they would be safe and go on their merry way. Thing is, when you face death in the dark, your little fiery swords ain't gonna do shit, and that's literally what happened next. The Dothraki, Sir Jorah, and Ghost, yeah, Ghost was there for a few seconds and then nowhere to be seen the remaining episode, all start charging in the dark towards the Whites and White Walkers, where then in a matter of seconds all get massacred. It literally happened in a matter of seconds where we first see the Dothraki charging like no other, and then the next thing you know, it's silence. Somehow, luckily, Sir Jorah and a few ended up retreating back to Winterfell. It looked like Sir Jorah was severely injured but was still able to fight, while the other remaining Dothraki were completely annihilated. Maybe like a few of them ended up coming back, but the remaining rest, nope, all dead. And what's even crazy about this is, everyone always spoke about how a fool would only face the Dothraki in an open field, and I guess that fool in this case were the dead, but they completely shredded and annihilated the fuck out of them. Even Robert Baratheon once said the same thing for the Dothraki. What's even crazier about all this is, Daenerys was watching as all her men were getting butchered and slaughtered. When I saw that, my mouth dropped and I couldn't believe all the Dothraki were gone in a matter of seconds. I am very excited to see the next episode just because I want to see how many Dothraki actually ended up surviving this battle. Number 8. The Dead attacks Winterfell. If you've ever watched World War Z starring Brad Pitt, that's essentially what this was. The Whites literally charged the fuck out of Winterfell and gave up no mercy. All you saw was bodies getting slit and cut open. I expected this to happen, honestly. The Dead are just rootless zombies that attack anything that's living, and unfortunately Winterfell saw the wrath of that. I will say this, all the Unsullied and the Northern men that actually stood their ground against the Whites have my major respect, but once the Whites started piling up, there is no way the living had a chance but to only retreat. It wasn't until Melisandre lit up the trenches with fire to prevent the Whites from crossing by. Daenerys was originally supposed to come with Drogon to light the trenches on fire, but it was so hard for her to see the signal from Sir Davos since it was so blurry due to the blizzard, which is why she wasn't able to assist them there. There was also a scene where the fucking Whites were literally climbing off one another to get inside Winterfell. That literally brought me memories when World War Z showed a scene similar to that. Number 7. Theon, the last man standing. So we knew going into this battle that Theon and the Ironborn would defend Bran from the Night King, and Theon even stood his ground and kept that promise to Bran. Theon ended up killing every white that tried going after Bran, and what's even crazier about this is he was the only last one alive from all his men. What really touched me through this scene was Bran told Theon that he was a good man and that he wanted to thank him for everything he's done for him. Bran knew that Theon was willing to do whatever it was, and he also knew that he was willing to sacrifice his life to protect him, and that's exactly what he did. When the Night King finally arrived at the Godswood tree, Bran looked at Theon and basically let him know it's okay, everything will be fine. Theon eventually starts charging at the Night King with his spear, but sadly the Night King outmaneuvers him and then stabs him right in the stomach. Theon, in my opinion, next to Jaime, has had one of the best character arcs throughout the series. He has done so much in the course of these past few seasons that he has redeemed his name as Theon Greyjoy and not Reek. I truly am sad that he had to die like that, but then again, he did die protecting Bran and he did keep his promise to the Stark family. Number 6, no one's safe in the crypts. What's funny about this is they kept mentioning the crypts last episode as if it were someplace that would keep the living from the dead. Well, surprise, that didn't happen. The dead actually started rising from their tombs, causing hella mayhem down there. I even thought for a second that Sansa and Tyrion would end up dying down there. It was complete chaos and so many people were getting slaughtered, but I just don't know how the fuck Varys ended up staying alive. I mean, he literally hasn't done anything this season and he's still alive. I honestly thought he'd die protecting one of the families down in the crypts, but nope, he hid behind a tomb the whole time. I don't hate Varys at all, but I am disappointed since his character hasn't done anything useful. Hopefully in the next final 3 episodes we can actually see him do something. Melisandre said that she would die this season and she did. Now the next one is Varys, but how will he die is my question. Overall, when I saw the dead arise from their tombs in the crypts, I honestly thought some of our main characters and supporting characters would die, like Sansa, Tyrion, Melisandre, and even Gilly, but I am happy to see that they're still alive. Number 5, Lyanna Mormont, the MVP. The little bear Lyanna Mormont was by far the MVP of this episode, along with someone else who I'll talk about later in this video. Lyanna said that she wanted to fight and she sure did. It looked like she was in charge of the Winterfell doors and commanding when to open them and close them. She and along with her men defended the doors pretty well until a huge fucking dead giant broke through and started tossing everyone like ragdolls. He even smacked Lyanna across the courtyard, which looked like it definitely hurt considering this is a giant that we're talking about. Lyanna ends up getting up and bravely starts charging at the giant. The giant looks at her and then picks her up and then starts squeezing the life out of her. But Lyanna wasn't giving up just yet. She slowly raised up her hand and then jams a dagger right into the giant's eye, killing him right away along with her dying in the process. I have to say, in my last previous videos, I always spoke about how I thought Lyanna wasn't a fighter at all, but wow, she definitely threw me off with that scene, and I now want to say that she truly is a badass and one hell of a soldier. She was by far my MVP of this episode, and I'm definitely glad that she went out a heroic way. Number 4, A Dance with Dragons. Okay, let me first off say, we finally got to see the dragons fight one another, and it was definitely amazing. We as fans have waited to see this and play for such a long time, and we finally saw it in this episode, and it did not disappoint. The cinematography for this was just spectacular. The scene where Drogon and Rhaegal along with Jon and Daenerys up in the air is just so breathtaking. This shot alone is what made me drop my mouth. Never did I think that we'd get a shot like this in Game of Thrones, but we did, and the outcome of it was just incredible and makes me speechless every time when I'm looking at it. But the fight with the dragons all started when Jon saw the Night King on Viserion over Winterfell, and that's when he automatically grabbed Rhaegal and flew right at the Night King. Jon ends up attacking the Night King in a surprise attack, but not right after Viserion starts attacking Rhaegal in the air. Both Viserion and Rhaegal are biting and clawing one another, leaving some nasty marks on each other. It wasn't until Daenerys came and knocked the Night King off of Viserion with Drogon. I thought that whole sequence was just breathtaking. Even when the Night King was chasing Daenerys, I just thought it was well shot, and the cinematography while the dragons were chasing each other was just unbelievable to watch. The whole suspense throughout that was something else and just top notch. I truly enjoyed every bit of that fight, and I do hope we get to see more action with Drogon and Rhaegal in the next 3 episodes. Number 3, no one is safe inside Winterfell. When the Whites started entering inside the walls of Winterfell, it was just a slaughterhouse going on. You had Brienne and Jaime back to back fighting together, you had Sam fighting off Whites left and right, as well as Grey Worm and Gendry. Everyone was giving it their all, but that still wasn't enough just because the Whites were literally overpowering them with how many soldiers were entering the walls. I have to say, they defended so damn well considering not one of them died this episode. They would get surrounded by Whites but still end up killing them left and right. I kept thinking to myself, is this how they go? But nope, they kept going and didn't stop. The Whites were just coming like it was a marathon for them. This is one of the parts that really got me nervous, just because 1 or 2 of our favorite characters could have died. Luckily, they all survived, which is a miracle to be honest. Number 2, Jon and the Night King round 3. Now with this one, I really wanted to see a one-on-one fight with Jon and the Night King. They've had a few encounters with one another and have always had this connection with each other. We always thought it was going to be Jon's destiny to fight the Night King and to defeat him. Sadly, the Night King ended up being a little bitch and didn't fight Jon. The Night King ended up walking towards Winterfell while Jon was chasing him down. He ends up turning around and looks at Jon and then raises his arms up, meaning he's about to raise up a whole new batch of dead whites. I just thought that was the biggest bitch move that he can do. I really did want to see a one-on-one fight between the two, but no, the Night King ended up doing some pussy shit and then raises himself up a whole new dead army. Like, come on man, stop avoiding Jon and fight him already. But I also thought the way it was shot was amazing. Seeing it from the Night King's perspective just looked terrifying, but I also have no idea how Jon even managed to survive all those new whites that the Night King resurrected. This whole time they've been hyping it up that Jon would be the one to defeat the Night King, but we've never actually got the chance to see that. They've given each other the death stare numerous times, but actually fighting one another, they've never done that, which is what really surprised me this episode. And lastly, number 1, Arya kills the Night King. I did not expect that at all. Arya being the one to kill the Night King literally threw me the fuck off. I did not see that coming. In the final minutes of the episode, right as the Night King was about to kill Bran, we see Arya dive right behind him and try to sneak attack him. But with the Night King's quick reflexes, he catches Arya by the throat and starts choking her. She ended up using the Valyrian dagger to kill the Night King. Arya got the dagger from Bran last season, which was also the same exact spot where Bran gave it to her and where she killed the Night King. Bran knew that it would be Arya to defeat the Night King. He is the three-eyed raven now, meaning he can see in the past, present, and future. Well, a little bit in the future. That is why he gave it to her, knowing that she would be the one to end the Night King. It's also crazy to think that the Valyrian dagger, which was used as an attempt to assassinate Bran in his sleep back in season 1 episode 2, is now being used here to protect him from getting killed. I just loved how the showrunners made it like that. It really makes sense as to why it had to be Arya. If you don't recall back in season 3 where Arya and Melisandre first encountered, Melisandre told Arya that when looking into her eyes, she says, "I see darkness in you, and in that darkness, eyes staring back at me. Brown eyes, blue eyes, green eyes. Eyes sealed shut forever. We will meet again." Now we finally understand what Melisandre meant at that moment. Arya was essentially destined to give the Night King his death. Overall, I will be honest, as much as I'd like it if Jon were the one to kill the Night King, I am pleased with how they handled this death by having Arya kill him. Arya is a true badass and she did deserve this kill, so I am definitely pleased there. And that's why I also think that she's one of the MVPs of this episode. Now to give you guys my honest opinion on this episode, all I have to say, visually it was fucking stunning. The cinematography was absolutely breathtaking. Miguel Sapochnik, the director of this episode, along with directing Hardhome, Battle of the Bastards, and now The Long Night, which is the title of this episode, are just undeniably amazing. The overall episode was a nice pace, showcasing all her characters going through pain as well as fighting to stay alive. I even liked how Melisandre came back to fulfill her destiny. She ended up helping the living by providing fire to slow down the whites, as well as giving us light to see since this episode was really dark, literally. The dragons fighting was by far one of my favorite parts of the episode, since we finally saw the brothers go at one another and even injure each other badly. I also liked the Arya scene where she was in the study hall or library trying to avoid the whites by being all stealthy and sneaky. It definitely brought back memories from season 6 with her training as a faceless man, and seeing it being used here is just incredible. There was just so many scenes that I could truly talk about and discuss with you guys right now, but I'll probably make a separate video on that later down the week. One thing I really did not like was the screen time for Jaime, Brienne, Tormund, Gendry, and Ser Davos and Podrick when it came down to facing the whites. I mean, we saw them in little glimpses fighting them off, but I was actually hoping that we were going to see a little more screen time with that group, considering they got a lot of screen time last episode. It just felt with that last episode that one of them from the group would die in this battle, but somehow luckily they all survived, which is just crazy to think about. But overall, everything about this episode was just phenomenal. The acting, the pace, the dark horror feel, and the cinematography was just top notch this episode. Also, I can't forget about that final score when it started playing when Sansa and Tyrion were hiding behind the tomb in the crypts. Ramin Djawadi is the best when it comes to composing music in films and TV shows. His song titled The Night King set so many emotions when it started playing that it really felt like all our favorite characters were about to die. What I liked about the song the most was how in the beginning it would start off slow and gentle, and then when progressing furthermore into the song, it would reveal more of its layers of what it's truly about: death, silence, and darkness. Ramin Djawadi has made so many incredible pieces throughout his time in Game of Thrones, and I'm just really glad to hear this new work again this season. But tell me, what did you guys think about this episode? Did it live up to your expectations? Leave all your comments in the comments section and let me know what you think. Lastly, I just want to say thank you all for watching, and if you haven't already, hit that like button if you enjoyed today's video, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't by now. If you don't mind, share the video if you thought it was good and want others to see it. Watch my other videos containing Game of Thrones Season 8 in the next video. I'll have more Game of Thrones content up in the upcoming days, so stay tuned for that. Thank you all once more, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.